percussion coming off that thing standing right here.
How's it going, everybody? DoomsdayBrothers here. we got a Mini-14 coming at you today, and Cody's gonna give you the rundown a little bit. We'll start with the positives like usual. Why don't you go ahead and start us out? Tell us what you got going on here first with this Mini. Obviously, this is not the original stock.
This is my Mini-14. It's a ranch rifle, but also has the flash hider, which isn't too common. It's got 18-inch barrel. Right now it's sitting in the flat dark earth Tapco stock, which I actually like a lot. It just added a lot more ergonomic feel to everything. Just made like the pole adjustable. I was able to mount stuff onto it, and just kind of overall just make it look pretty sexy.
It does look a lot different.
Yeah.
Definitely. Alright, so let us know what you got here on the positives here, starting with how unique it is.
One thing I enjoyed about it is everybody had ARs, and so it was just kind of fun to have something that was different, where some people didn't know what it was. I was able to tell them about it. But one big draw to me was I'm kind of a history buff, and so it just kind of brought me back to the M1 Garand, however you want to say it, and
Yeah, it doesn't
to
really
the
matter.
M14 days.
Garand,
With that rotating bolt, the handle, I liked it all. That was one of the big draws towards me, is just that rotating action I liked a lot. And it's got a solid history. I mean, they've been built since 1974. Ruger came out with them. Originally, they were supposed to be kind of like a varmint hunter, but they kind of have become to be kind of like, they've been characterized as the poor man's AR because it shoots at .223. It also comes in the 7.62 by 39 as the Mini-30. So there's different ammo choices there. They also have the 6.8 SBC.
And it does have a lot of stuff based off of the M1 Garand. There's a lot of Eternals, the receiver and whatnot. But primarily, I mean, what they took most of the modeling off of was the M14, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted to kind of stylize the M14 in a smaller chamber to make it cheaper to shoot, probably better for varmint hunting.
And if you're one of those guys that really digs the M14, but you can't shell out the $700,000 for it, and then pay the $20 a box for ammo.
Yeah, that 7.62 stuff's not cheap, man.
I mean, this is a great option because you get to have that same look. You can get it with the wood stocks and stainless steel barrels. So we have really many.
Or you can tack it out like this if you want.
For decent cost too. I mean, this Tapco stock with this and the foregrip, it ran me about $100. Tapco magazines about 10 to 15. And the Ruger factory bags add up to about 20-ish.
Yeah, it's a good value overall.
It also has the safety as an M1. I like that a lot. It was something that was easy. You have to move your fingers around at all. So it's right there in the trigger guard to pop open and set on.
Very nice. So we talked about the traditional look a little bit. Obviously, this one has a different stock on it. You do have the original synthetic stock here as well. Yeah, so I mean, if you want to throw it up there real quick, that's what the rifle came in. So more traditional look to it. Obviously, you don't have as many options when you're running a stock like that.
Right.
But if you're into that traditional look, then that's definitely the way to go. And that gives you a standard 13-inch length of pull. Like you said, that one gives you variable lengths of pull if you want to adjust that. All right, so you talked about the history a little bit. You know, based off of, you know, America's battle rifle, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
This is one of the improved versions, the 580/581 series, which has the thicker barrel and better sights. They definitely improved the ghost ring sights because the old Mini-14s had this old kind of flip-up aperture rear sight and then a single blade front sight. And I've shot that one before, and the front sight is a lot thicker, and the back sight just wasn't as good. And also the barrel was much thinner, and so those suffered a lot of accuracy issues. But Ruger finally put a thicker barrel on it, gave it a wings front sight, and then this nice ghost ring back here, and it really, really improved it.
Yeah, that should improve the accuracy quite a bit, having that thicker barrel as well.
Yeah.
Especially with successive rounds. And this barrel does have a 1-9 right-hand twist, as you can see on there. So I mean, that's great for your standard, I don't know, 62 grain bullets. If you want to go heavier in that, you might want to get, you know, 1-8, 1-7. But that's a great standard if you're just gonna go target shooting your average ammunition that you're gonna buy at the store. So.
And a lot of people see it as because it's chambered in .223 that it can't shoot .556, but it is noted for caliber .223, not .223 Remington. And so you can shoot .556 and .223 out of the Mini-14, but not in the target model. That's the only one that only shoots .223.
That's right. All right, so we talked about that, the history. It is really more or less, designed to be a mini M14, M1A, whatever you want to call it. Great value, we talked about that. How about reliability? How has the reliability been?
It's just like any gun, you keep it clean, it'll work every time. We did have some issues back, but then looking back, I hadn't cleaned it for quite a couple times shooting. And I shot a lot of tool ammo through it. But, I mean, this rotating bolt design really is, it's never going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still so famous because it works so well.
Yeah. So keep it clean, just like any other gun. We did have some issues with it with the mags, but we'll talk about that in a little while. It does have a fixed gas system, so I imagine that's probably what adds to the weight a little bit.
Yeah, it's a big old metal block up here. We can show that when we switch out the stocks.
Yeah. Okay. And then you talked about the adjustable rear sight a little bit. That's a cool positive. Definitely nice.
It's adjustable for windage and elevation. Most rear sights are just for windage.
So you do windage and elevation. So those are some of your positives. We're going to move on to a few of the negatives here. So first one, and probably the biggest one, at least for this Ruger that we've experienced, right, are your magazines.
Yeah. The factory magazines are great. I just didn't like they're heavy, they're steel, these ones are 20 rounders. I didn't want to shell out the money for 30 rounders. And then so I saw...
So they do make factory 30 round magazines?
They do. But those run to like 30, 40 bucks.
Right.
So I tried out the Tapco magazines I heard good things about. And they do say that they don't shoot steel well, but I also had a problem with American Eagle. The only rounds that I've never had issues with in these Tapco mags has been PMC. And I think it's because it's such a finely polished brass on the outside that it has no problem sliding around in here. Word for Tapco, I talked to I don't remember, Kevin at Tapco many times about these. Their customer service was amazing. They sent me another one of these.
Free, didn't they?
Yeah, they sent me this one to try out.
Yeah.
And anything, they're always willing to ask and also take my advice with the ammunition. But definitely, because it's a tighter fit in here, that's one of the things they said they're working on.
Did you ever try those magazines with your original stock on there?
I did.
And was it the same issues or same
similar
problems?
issues.
Okay.
It's just the dirty ammo. Really, PMC is the only one I have to run off because it's the cleanest I've seen. It just slides a lot better in the magazine and allows it to feed better.
Okay.
Another note with the magazines is I've also had this problem with the Ruger magazines. So I don't know if it is a problem with the magazine hold open lever or these, but it doesn't always hold the bolt back, and when it does, it just catches on the follower. And then so you take out the magazine, the bolt slams shut again.
Or the tap
Some kind of an issue going on there. That could just be this rifle, right? I mean, we don't really know. But it doesn't have anything to do with the stock that you put on.
Here we go. Right.
Got it. Hit. Hi.
Is that live? No.
No.
Oh my gosh.
That one ejected, it didn't feed.
That one didn't. Yeah. That's 5.
That's it. Yeah, he's going bold action that time, huh?
What do we do here?
Get your handicap on that. Mounting issues, that's another negative that you found, right?
When it was in its fashion, its original fashion, you have your iron sights, and if you want to, you could hook up to these integrated scope rings, but I didn't really want to run a scope. I had this optic, and it couldn't really get a red dot on these scope rings here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually bought this off Amazon. It's just the NC Star Picatinny rep mount. Downside to it, to attach it on, you do have to remove the rear sight. So that kind of just takes away that option if you're running this around in the field. But other than that, a lot of people give NC Star crap, but I had awesome experience with this. It was solid. Even when the screws fell out, because I forgot to Loctite it down, and it never wiggled. And also the problem with that, once you get this going on up here, and then you have your mount for your optic. And also you got to remember that traditional stock, your cheek's resting lower here, and so your cheek weld is non-existent. I was holding my cheek weld more on my chin just to line up with that red dot until I got a lower mount.
Okay, yeah, something to consider. All right, so those are some of the mounting issues. Seating mags, it's a little different than people who are used to maybe their ARs, their M16s, right?
It's that rock-in style that's familiar with AK and M1A, where you can see there's a little hole right here, that there's a pin on the inside of the rifle that it grabs, you just gotta rock it in. And I do like that because you got those two different places where it's latching on, so it feels more secure than an AR. But then it's not as ergonomic to pop out, and it's a little harder to get in because if you miss that pin, you lose a couple seconds trying to wiggle it onto that pin.
Cool. All right, so as far as your basic field strip, take us through that real quick. You need a tool, right?
Yeah, it's a little more difficult with this when it's in the stock because you gotta take off these screws. So this is empty. First in this stock, you gotta unscrew these screws, and there's one on the opposite side. And that just comes right off.
So that's that.
And then this one comes into needing a tool. This trigger guard, I see most people with like M1As, M14s, they are able to just yank this trigger guard off. But Ruger's is pretty tight, so I have to use some kind of hard metal. And get that stuck in there. And the trigger guard just comes out. Just like that.
There you go. Save your whole trigger back.
Stock comes right off, and then you're back into the rifle. This shows the gas system. And here you have that reciprocating piston. Gas comes out right there, blows back this piston, works your bolt.
And what they mean by a fixed piston system, this thing, I mean, it's mechanically connected to the bolt, right?
Yeah.
The piston itself. So, a little bit different than your short stroke pistons. It's a little bit more solid, it's a little bit heavier, so you do get some more positive feedback with extraction and chambering your rounds, but there's usually a little bit added weight with those systems as well. So
big block right there.
Big block, yeah.
And then just show you the other stock here. Just slide it in. Trigger guard slides in, you get your heat shield, and it just pops right on top with this little grabber right there. And that's what we're talking about, that traditional look. And it really, like, my wife was never impressed with it because she said it looked kind of wimpy, but this just looks, I don't know, I like the look of it, just how it's just traditional. You could just picture it being back in the M14 days.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so we talked about weight a little bit. That thing comes in at 6 pounds, 12 ounces. So I don't know, for a gun shooting 5.56, it's not terrible.
And in regards to weight, it feels, especially in this, it feels a lot more front heavy than AR, just because when you're holding it in like this, all the weight is here and forward. When in AR, most of the action's sitting right here. You got your buffer system, so it feels a little bit more front heavy, even though it is balanced pretty well. But cool. I actually love it in this configuration, just for the kind of run and gun stuff we like to do. This just made it a little bit more easier.
Cool. All right. As far as accuracy, these generally come in at around 2 minutes of angle. Generally speaking. I mean, you get your target models and whatnot, which will be better, but what's been your experience?
I remember when we first were doing the Tough Mudder, it came in, it had like one of the 2 top 10 scores, but honestly I never was able to get down to just sit down at a bench and get it exactly sighted in, so my accuracy thing isn't in my opinion, isn't totally nailed, but it's practical accuracy. I mean, everyone gets mad about not being able to shoot a group within a dime, but I mean,
but you can that's not what we're trying to do. Is we're not bench shooting, right? We're practicing for practical purposes.
And so if you can pretty much hit within the size of, say, a softball, I mean,
you're jam free with the Mini.
If that's your target, it's going down. But it does that. I mean, it's like I said, it's no tack driver, but it will hit where you're shooting.
All right. So for a competitive rifle, maybe not, but for your purposes of self-defense hunting or just general doomsday dashing, you know, pretty solid, right?
Or just kind of a fun gun to have. That's one that appeals to me when it's like this. It's one of those things you can take out with people. It's not. I know I took it out with my nephews, and I had the Smith & Wesson M&P Sport and this one, and one of them commented the Sport looked scary, but this one, they love shooting this one because it does have a little, for those people that aren't as familiar with guns, this has more of a traditional look.
Maybe it doesn't look like what people will consider an assault rifle, whatever that is.
And so that brings us on to another benefit of, for those people who live in states. For example, I got this because right now, I'm not in California, but I'm from there and plan on returning. In this configuration, it's perfectly California legal as soon as if you get a 5 or 10 round magazine for it. You have to do something with this flash suppressor, welded on or something, but it also doesn't get as many bad looks as an AR would from people who are scared of guns.
Cool. So one thing we didn't mention, it should have around a 6-pound trigger, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it feels pretty nice. I know when I shot it, it was a non-issue. I definitely wasn't thinking, wow, I'm pulling hard on this, or this is gritty. It felt pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Not too heavy.
I've never had a problem with it. I mean, I enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's a solid stock trigger, you know. Again, not your competition trigger, but you know, for what you're paying for it, for its purposes, it's great.
You can get trigger jobs done on them too.
Definitely. All right, so I mean that covers the gist of our review here. What are your overall impressions on your Mini-14?
Overall impressions, I love it. I'd have one again. I wouldn't want to have it as kind of a competition or a 3-gun rifle just because that rocking the magazine is a little time consuming unless you train perfectly with it. It's harder with just getting seating options for it for more tactical kind of look. There is another popular stock with it, the ATI stock. I've held it and I just hated it. It's one of the things you pick up. It feels like they tried to make it too ergonomic and it just, I don't know, it wasn't working for me. But this one fits really well. The trigger and the pistol grip actually line up really well together. That's one thing I was worried about, but it actually felt pretty good. I'm actually selling this right now just to get money for other things, but I would buy one again, you know, later days when I'm not able to run around and shoot. This is just a fun rifle to have to take out and shoot just as it is. I mean, you don't have to do anything to it. You keep it its original form and it's still great.
Cool. I've got to agree with you there. You know, it's a nice solid rifle. You know, the first time I went out and shot it, you know, we were having a few more issues with magazines. The bolt wasn't holding back well. Just getting all sorts of jams using some steel stuff, and I don't know. My initial impressions weren't great. You know, I think I thought worse of it than what it really was. Because this last time that we came out, I really enjoyed shooting. It felt great. Seemed like it was shooting very accurately, very reliably. So once we got those issues taken care of, figured out what we needed to do with the mags and ran the right ammunition through it. Plus, you cleaned it.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, that basically what that does when you keep your rifle clean. But it was a world of difference. It was night and day. I mean, I really enjoyed shooting at that time. And after that, my impressions are very positive on this rifle. And I'd say if this is something you're looking for, if it fulfills your purposes, absolutely spring for it. It's a great value. You're going to have a lot of fun shooting it. And honestly, you're not going to get much more out of any other rifle in this price range. So, Mini-14, thumbs up, solid rifle.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening to us rant. Doomsday Brothers out. Check out our other videos. If you have any questions, post them. We'll get back to you.
Rambo style.
Oh.